Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rebuild podcast. I am here with my co host, Carmen Turner. This is Beth Borody, and we are back for another week and another podcast episode. So, how are you, Carmen?
I am well. I am really excited about today's episode. And yeah, it just feels like, we're really deep into fall now. Or like
Mm.
Thanksgiving is coming up in Canada. So I just love this time of year. It feels like this is my New Year's, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Our kids are back in school. The air is crisp. I love it.
We are having our first fall day here, I feel. We have
Mhm.
had like such a heat wave the last week or so. And then the rain came yesterday, and today it's that beautiful fall weather. Sunny but very crisp. Pull out the cozy sweaters, like feeling that changing season. And I think we were all waiting for it. I mean, and that is from I love summer. Summer's my absolute favorite season. But the season needed to change and we needed to get on to the next and we needed to dive into fall. And so I am also really just loving it today and hoping that this is going to stay as we transition more into the fall side. So, yeah. I also
Yeah.
just have to say that I have been loving our conversations that we've been having recently. Really coming to these calls is like a highlight of my week and just being able to throw topics on the table and say, here's what we want to chat about. I mean, I think I've given you a less than 4 minutes preview of what I wanted to chat about today. Yet I already know that it's going to be something that you're going to be able to dive right into because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately in my own kind of building of where I'm going, but also within conversations I'm having with women in my network and around the industry. And that is the conversation around what is purpose? How do you find purpose? And how do you use that purpose to fuel and to drive you? So, as we dive in, I'll throw it to you right away to ask what does purpose mean to you? And how do you define that for yourself or for clients that you work with?
Purpose, such a good question. I love this too because it's not something that you do once and then it's like that forever. It's like over and over again coming back to your why. And, I hear people say, but what if I don't have a purpose? And we all have something. You were just talking about the Jane Goodall
Mhm.
special that has just come out where it's her final words. And that to me is her saying that everyone has something to contribute. Everyone has a skill, a passion, something that they see that others don't, something that they're really good at that people always ask them about, something that they can contribute to the greater good. And in turn, it turns out that actually that's the thing that can also make you money and it can also feel good and make an impact at the same time. So to me, that's what purpose is. And it can also help you get out of when you're stuck in a funk and you believe that, you've hit a wall, which we naturally do every point, everyone does that at some point in their career. So for me, purpose is such a good tool
Mhm.
to use.
I'm going to take one moment and share something about the Jane Goodall document or interview, I guess that
Yeah.
it is. It's everyone should go and watch it. Number one, they were reading her bio at the beginning, which was like multiple pages that they went through because she's just done or she did so much in her life. And there was one phrase that I paused, pulled out my notebook, and wrote it down because I think this sums up what incredible legacy she is leaving. And her bio said, you are the woman who redefined man.
Mhm.
Because she was the one who showed that chimps could use tools and chimps could do all of these things. But think from a female perspective, like she was 91, early 90s when she passed away. So in the time of her early 20s, just think about the resistance she would have faced being a woman. And her legacy is you are the woman who redefined man. And through that
Mhm.
whole interview, she very much speaks to this idea of everyone has a role. You have a purpose being on this earth. You have a role to play. You have hope to feel, hope to give, hope to live into. And I was listening to this and I was finishing watching this right as we were jumping on. and thinking about this idea of purpose, and the idea of purpose, exactly as you said, not being this one and done thing, but being something that once you get an inkling of what your purpose is, or you feel like you're kind of discovering it, you have to do something about that. You
Mhm,
then have to kind of almost like execute on that purpose. You have to actually put it into motion and do something with it. It's
mhm.
it's it's all nice and dandy to just have a nice flowery purpose statement that you maybe hang on your bathroom mirror or whatever. But if you are not then doing something to get to bring that purpose forward for other people, then what's the point? You're almost like you're it's a disadvantage to you and it's a disadvantage to everyone around
Yeah,
you. And that really resonated with me when I was thinking about that and watching this interview, and just thinking about how we show up every day and exercise the purpose muscle, and how we again unlock ourselves from thinking that we have to just do one thing, and that there has to be a right answer for what purpose is, or it has to impress people, or it has to, it has to do something for someone else, as opposed to be what fuels you and the feelings that you want to have in your life and how you want to show up day in and day out.
yeah. I think it's so interesting because this is one of the things that I do with almost every one of my clients is we go back to the purpose. Because usually when they come to me, they're feeling stuck, right, in their careers, or they feel like they've hit, they don't know what's next. They feel like they want to make so much an impact, but something's holding them back, and they forget their power. They forget how they have something to contribute that others don't. Because our brains kind of get us to focus on what's not there in front of us rather than what already is there. And so if we go back to what are the things that bring you joy, that innately feel good? What are the skills that you just find like that just kind of come to you, and what's the thing that you're passionate about, like all of those things. Like when we were doing it, it was so clear with you wanting to work with women and you just love
Mhm.
that, and that really came out. And so then it's kind of like the combination of those, the Venn diagram of all of those things, and somewhere in the middle where they all overlap, that can be your purpose. And now when you can come back, a mission statement is great because it can help you refocus that, like a mission statement for yourself to remind you who you are and remind you what it is that you do and how you do that and how you show up. And then that can like propel you into what's the action I'm going to take today to advance that. And if you do that, I promise, if you do that every day for like 30 days, you're just going to see lots of things like opportunities coming out of the air.
And it really is about having that joy in that moment. Like, take that
Mhm,
little step that brings you joy towards what you
mhm,
want to do. And for me, I mean, you nailed it. I really believe that my purpose is creating spaces for women. And it's working with women in all different levels. And it's interesting, even this morning, I was doing some free writing in my journal, and I wrote in my journal, I wonder when it expands beyond mine. I wonder when it
yeah,
goes beyond that, because uh, I absolutely love what I do, and I love everything that I'm doing with Femina and those sorts of things. But I know that as my purpose grows and as my work grows and my company grows, I'm gonna want to keep getting bigger and bigger in the influence that I have. And I think it was one of the questions. I met this incredible young woman this week, and she's just a couple years out of university. She's from the agriculture world, actually, and she's coming in, or she wants to come into mining. And so we were chatting about like how do you build a network and things like that. And she asked me like, how did you deal with being so different in your approach and not being a traditional mining background coming into the industry, and how did you make that work, and how did you do it? And I said it came back to what I felt I had impacted, and it is that uniqueness that I brought to the table. There
mhm,
would be no point in me coming into the roles that I've played in this industry being just like everybody else. I would just be kind of a robot in a sea
mhm,
of other people who would be exactly like me. And it was the fact of owning that confidence and owning that power that I do have, and that purpose that does drive me, that
mhm.
allowed me to create everything that I've created for myself in my career. And it really does come down to how I feel when I know that my purpose is being lived out. And that, I mean, I will always say, I think the first time that I really defined this was when you and I first started working together. And it was like years before Feminat even existed, was that understanding of I just want to work with women and do something with women and do something for women. And then slowly, through curiosity and through those small steps of just, I'm going to send out a Zoom link. I'm going to
Mhm.
send this to a few more people. I'm going to ask Carmen to come and talk to us on one of our Zoom links. I'm going to, just these little steps that I did, all of a sudden, this thing formed. And it formed because it was being driven by where my purpose really comes from and where that drive and power comes from. And I look at how that almost becomes like intuition. Like
Yeah,
it becomes less about a thing that I have to remember that I have. Be like, oh right, I have a purpose. What is that purpose? And it becomes more of like just my gut and that intuition of just how I show up and what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and being able to then navigate from that because I've exercised that muscle so very much now at this point.
yeah. Yeah. It's funny, I remember when we went through this exercise and I was like, "Well, let's look at your purpose. What do you think it is?" And you told me about, like, working with women. I was like, "Huh, I
It's
thought it
nothing
was
that what
like
you're
I didn't
doing
know it
now.
was." I'm like, "That makes sense." But at the time, I was like, because my purpose is actually well, part of my purpose is connecting people with their greater sense of purpose so that, like, the light switch goes on. And then it's helping to give tools, strategies, and resources to help them make more of an impact. And then it's modeling purpose so you are being that person before you even are them. But that, I think, brings us into your part around the feeling of being your purpose, that next level of yourself. Like, if we think about, you know, the person who's becoming an Olympian or the person, the athlete who wants to win the gold medal, they have to believe that about themselves and feel that and act and behave like that before they actually have the evidence that it's true. They don't have the evidence until they win that gold medal, but they have to feel and believe that, even if it's a bit of belief, and then take the actions as you say.
I see you right now, and I feel like that's so relevant to what you're doing with the launch of the shift and
Right.
how you are taking kind of that next level because you are someone that I think again I learned from and that has just been invaluable in my own journey. But you're someone who has this dedicated purpose around the sustainability side in particular and working with women in this field at a time when sustainability is getting like absolutely annihilated around the globe. And yet here you are launching a new product and a new service within sustainability and for women in sustainability.
Yeah.
And so where from the purpose that you've just like talked about getting other people to find their purposes and what drives you, how has that then brought you into this new era for yourself of like now kind of going into the shift and now offering this, and where does your purpose like fuel that, or how does your purpose fuel that and build that?
I think it's a great question. I think it's just way more aligned than where I have been coming from in the sense of like the whole world is changing. The way we define work is changing. How we like the economy is changing. And it is like the closer you become to your purpose and who you are and what we've talked about being more of yourself, like that is what's going to elevate your career, your impact. And so, someone asked me, like, for the program, do you have to be in sustainability working? No, you just have to be someone who probably wants to create a huge change in the world because it's not going to be about the little sustainability teams who create the change. It's the people who are out there making business decisions, but who feel like they have something to contribute. They have a purpose. They want to see change in their areas of work. They want to see change in the businesses. They want to see more women in the workforce. They want to see more equity. They want to see mining companies doing the right thing or other companies doing the right thing when it comes to environmental, social justice, those sorts of things. So, no, it's not just for sustainability people, but it's like putting the lens of that over everyone, the purpose lens as well, so that they can then operate from this new empowerment, I think.
I feel like we as women need that space so very much right now. And I found that even within the last week with conversations that I've been having with women from across the industry, either in kind of group calls or one on one conversations, there has been this common theme that has been shared of feeling one, that women have to shrink. And so I've been asked the question, how do I not shrink myself? Because I've been taught to shrink to make sure that like I'm not imposing my views or I'm not being seen as too much or whatever it may be. And then this other theme of just like I don't know what I want to do. And I keep saying, I'm like, why do we as women feel like we need to just run ourselves so fast to burnout and launch ourselves off that cliff to feel like we are successful? Like we still don't have another definition of what success is if it is not validated externally, and it can't be validated externally in any sort of healthy way because there's no system for us to perform in
Mm,
a successful manner that doesn't result in burnout, especially when you are in high kind of performing high capacity roles and industries that
mhm,
require a lot of attention. And I think when talking with women, and again, these these conversations are so like it's just the theme that keeps coming up. It is this idea of just like, I don't even have time to think about what my next moves are or how I want to
mhm.
be because I'm exhausted and I just don't have the time to do it. And I want to, but I don't. And it's like, I feel like the simplest questions that I ask are just feel so loaded to sometimes to these women. And they're just like, I don't even know where to start with that question. Like, I don't like,
Mhm,
I asked a couple women, well, like, what makes you feel good? What makes you like when are you happy? And like when do you like capture that like feeling of joy? And it's like stopped women in their tracks where they can't answer the question. And
yeah,
that to me is so fascinating because I remember being there. I remember those feelings of just like, well, I just have to perform for X, Y, and Z because that's my role and that's what I have to do. But it's the learnings and it's the understanding of how much more impact and influence we can have as individuals and collectively when we stop and pause and we realize what is unique about us. And we realize how that uniqueness is purpose, it is drive, it is ambition. And
yeah,
when that gets brought to the table, that's when change happens.
yeah,
But it's like so hard to get women to understand that they need to just like not run to the next step of whatever is expected of them to take, but actually to stop and say, wait. Let's take a minute, let's pause, and let's focus on you for a second here. And let's be totally selfish in the fact that you get to think about what you want, what makes you feel good, and how you want to show up in the world.
feel like maybe this is gonna be your next course or masterclass. Like, you just did one on networking, but honestly, the next one should be, like, how to take up space, how to not
Yeah.
shrink, how to lean into what you want, how to identify what you want. Like, yeah, that's a no-brainer because it's just so important. Like, right now in this time, like, we just, we shrink away from social media, but it's like it can be such a tool to help get your, your brand out there. And
Mm,
feel like everyone needs to be building and showing who
yeah.
they are,
Yeah.
building their brand.
There a woman who is part of Femina, and she's been part of Femina for a few years now. She is American. Her name is Jess Scanlon, and she is like a communications genius in my mind about how she talks about the industry, how she has a thing called Rock Talks because she loves rocks, and just how she talks about the industry in a new way. And she put up such an interesting post today uh, that I saw where it was like all of this, like, if you look up mining on all of the social media platforms outside of LinkedIn, which obviously is more professional and kind of
Yeah.
role driven, it's all the terrible things that mining
I
is in
saw
the world.
that post. I was like,
And
this is genius. She
totally,
could just pivot and cover all of this. That's all she has
totally.
to do.
And it was totally that idea of like, hey, companies, you need to lean in and start talking about who you are and how you
Yeah.
operate and what you do, because otherwise your story's getting filled in for you. And I
Yeah.
feel like that reference is very similar for us women. Is it's like if
Mhm.
we are not taking up space, if we are not talking about things that everyone else is talking about, then we are not taking up the space that we deserve to be taking up.
Yeah.
And this even came up in a conversation with this group of women who were working together looking at this mine ownership and this company, and it even came up in this conversation somewhat subtly where someone asked, do we need to have the conversation about how loud we're being about this, and like should we try and just do this a little bit more quietly and a little subtly, like men are going to want to invest in this, men are going to want to be a part of it, so like how big and boisterous do we want to be? And my response to it was, we don't want to alienate people. We don't want to exclude people. The right people coming to the table who believe in our mission and believe in what we're doing
Yeah.
are the people that we want at the table. However, as women, we are going to push the boundaries and we are going to take up space and we're going to talk about this in the exact same ways that men talk about it. And
Yeah.
that simply means that we're going to have a bigger voice, and that's going to rub people the wrong way, but we won't actually be doing anything different than what men are
Mhm.
already doing.
Yeah.
And again, that comes into like that need for me to create a new space where our voices are being heard in different ways.
Mm.
And I had actually this conversation last night with Jeremy, with my husband, because we were talking about the Taylor Swift album, because that's
Yeah.
all most of my conversations have been for the last week, and the song Would, which has
Yeah.
sparked a whole bunch of conversation around the globe, whether people love it or hate it. And I said to him, I said, I even was like listening to it and was like, all right, maybe not my favorite song on the
Yeah.
album, but whatever. And then I
Yeah.
had this realization that I was like, she's talking about sex, she's talking about her relationship with Travis. Has that not been music that men have put out for decades and decades and decades
Oh,
about
yeah.
women, but
Yeah.
in much more graphic and horrible
Yeah.
things? But because it is a woman who is
Yeah.
seen as kind of like this, like, she's like poppy and she's whatever, that all of a sudden we're like criticizing it and how inappropriate it is. Because again, there's the double standard for what women bring to the table versus what men bring to the table. And so I think that that whole feeling of showing up and taking up space, you don't have to do it aggressively. You
No.
don't have to do it in a way that pisses everyone off. It may naturally make some people angry, but that's not your problem. That's their problem. And you just need to live to your values, to your drive, to your purpose. And if you can say, when you put your head down on a pillow every night, I lived the truest version of myself and I lived to the values that I had, then you don't need to worry about what other people are going to be saying or thinking about you. That's their issue and not yours.
It's about that, like, bringing that truth and honesty and not shrinking away so that others feel better about you, you know? Like,
Mhm, mhm.
not thinking about how other people feel. A story that sticks out in my mind for me is when I was at my last company, I was pulling together their first sustainability report, GRI based sustainability report. And they didn't really understand the concept of sustainability reporting, that why we're doing it, that there are these standards that you follow. It's like a recipe book. And the idea is that it's not a brochure, it's not a marketing tool. It's about providing an honest discussion about your impacts and risks in sustainability, and a balanced discussion on what works well and what's not doing well. How's the performance? And I remember we were sitting around the table with all these men who've been in the industry for like 40 years, environment guy, like these big crusty old guys who are like, why are we actually saying this? Why are we talking about this? And I'm like, well, this is where the world is going. They want to know. And as the company, you want to be the one probably telling the story. Like, you don't want someone else making it up. Like, you want to be the first ones. And these are, the guide of how to do that. And they're like, but I don't get it. I'm like, well, it's like, we don't have the best reputation. We're right up there with tobacco. And they're like, you're actually comparing us to the tobacco
How
industry?
dare you?
I'm like, we're actually kind of worse. Did you see the news about the tailings dam failure? Like, this is how society looks at us. And they could not get their minds around that. But it was it was scary, like being the one, like, to push them, to like show them something different. So to your point too, I didn't have the mining background, but I did have this new discipline, lens, and expertise in sustainability that I was bringing to it. And I was a woman. I had another perspective that they didn't have. And so this, like, changed the whole dynamic in the room. It changed the trajectory of where the company went after that. Like, we started to become known as high sustainability performers and reporters, like, which was not the case like before I got there. So that to me was taking up space. It felt super scary. I think I was like nervous every day going to work because there's something that I was trying to push up the hill, a new conversation I was trying to bring to the table, and at the time it wasn't accepted or the norm.
Well, and I was going to say a huge credit to you for having those very initial conversations and producing the first report for that company, because that company is like the beacon of sustainability in Canada now. It's who everyone looks to. They've now just announced one of the biggest deals in Canadian mining history with another big company that has also been looked at as having strong sustainability performance because of what they do. So to think that you sparked those conversations, you owned your power, you owned your space, and to think where that's now led them. Now, will you
It's
like it's just incredible to see where that
well,
went
thank
because you
you.
didn't shy away.
And I would say, like, they've positioned themselves as like the sustainable mining company of the future. That this is how we're going to build a low carbon economy is through, copper, and they're not wrong. But it was hard to have those conversations of, like, maybe we should not invest in thermal coal. Maybe that's not where the industry is going. Maybe we need to think about what does like 30, 40 years look like from now. But yeah, it's exciting to see.
It's really one of the whole reasons why when we launched our experience program, I was so adamant that the women in that group were coming together for we refused to call it professional development because I'm like these women and women who are working jobs across the industry, whatever industry you're in, if you've been in your lane for a while or you're a leader in the industry that you're in, you have professional development and executive coaching and all of that stuff left, right, and center. What we don't have is we don't have spaces for women to come and say, wait, I'm now like making decent money. I now, have a family that I'm taking care of, whether it's caregiving, whether it's parents. I still have a good 20, 30 years left in my career. What do I actually want to do? How do I actually want to show up and not have it just be what's the next executive role you can take? What's the next board position you can take? Well, how do you contribute more to the industry? It's like we give and we give and we give and we give and we give ourselves to our jobs. And sometimes that can be incredibly fulfilling and that can be incredibly motivating. But what we forget to do is realize that we actually still have a life that we need to live. And this is again something that I learned from you is that whole concept of you build your career around your life, not your life around your career. And so our
Mhm.
whole purpose with the designing the experience and putting this program out there for people to join is so that they have a moment to connect with other women in small groups to say, okay, wait, I don't need to be my title. I don't need to be my company right now. I just need to be Beth in this room with Carmen talking about like what is really going on in my life right now, what I'm struggling with, the things I'm celebrating. And like, I want to really define for me what my life is for me and have that my career play a role in it.
Yeah.
Because I have found time and time again that if that space is not created for women, we very rarely make it ourselves. We very rarely make it a priority to put that into our schedule or think that it's something that's needed. And so again, it's like it all stems from that purpose piece is as I keep being curious about why do we act the way that we act or why don't we do things that we know that we're supposed to do or that would be good for us? It's like, well then how do we create space for that so women can then jump into that and have it
Mhm.
made for them and show up in a way that's easier and a bit more digestible
I
than just
mean,
kind of throwing you out there and saying, well, good luck trying to find your purpose, but giving
yeah.
them an environment to actually do it because
Yeah,
it's
you do
so
need that.
important, but it's so hard to do.
Yes, like that container that you've built is just like, can you imagine if every one of those women then just like the ripple effect? If it like coming from their individual purposes and then like the actions that they take and then like having just the accountability in that group and support. I'm just like that it's really this is the stuff I think is really exciting. And like like you said, like the job title isn't it. Like the job isn't it. It's what you put into the work and then you are like continue to show up for regardless of the job title. And that stuff
Mm-hmm.
comes like that stuff is great. The accolade, like that stuff, but it comes when you are living from your purpose,
Hmm.
when you are taking steps every day, no matter what, to move that forward.
What are the feelings that you get when you know that you're like totally in the flow, you're like working from your purpose? How does that feel to you?
So I've been really leaning into who am I, who is Carmen, that who I'm becoming, and how do I want to feel? And it's like I want to feel like inspiration, empowered, connected, and that you're contributing something to the world, like to make the world a better place, basically to the greater good. And I think those are the joy. I mean, joy is another thing, like desire. Like, what do I desire? Like those, I am focusing on feeling that. And then, like, I shift into that. And then it's like, from that place, what are the actions I'm going to take?
I've been trying to do something similar where I think about those feelings. So when I think about where how I want to feel and what I want to do with my purpose, it's the feelings of like I want to feel both powerful and at peace. And I want to feel calm, but yet really confident at the same time. And when I'm feeling kind of stressed out with day to day activities or like something's not happening that I think should happen or whatever it may be, I'll actually now take a few minutes and just come and sit in this chair and I look out the window or I'll meditate and I will actually just sit and just think about the things that give me that feeling. And it
Yeah.
really takes like less than 10 minutes to land on something that when your
Yep.
brain starts to like think of it, it becomes a domino effect. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'm just sitting here like smiling and feeling all these feelings I want to be feeling because I'm thinking about the things that make me feel that way. And then I can go back to a problem with a completely different perspective on it
Yeah.
because I've kind of cleared my brain out and I've cleared it from like that outcome and control base of being like, no, I'm confident, I'm capable, I'm powerful, I can do these, I can solve this, I can figure out what needs to happen. And it's been a total mental shift for me and then lets me get into those feelings way more often than just having them happen sporadically or without kind of any intention behind them.
Yeah. So much intention. Like, I think also, this is another thing I've been working on with clients is like solving for what you want rather than what you don't want.
Mm.
And getting really clear because we tend to be like, well, this is what I don't want. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to, but then the longer that we focus on that, well, guess what happens? What you focus on happens. What
Mm.
you don't
Mhm.
want happens. So how about we shift our mind to like, what's the past is the past. What happened is like, we can't change that. What is it that we want? And like, let's solve for that now. Let's
Yeah.
take action towards that.
Do you find that a lot of that, like, what I don't want is a lot of scarcity? Because I find that coming up with women where it's
Yes.
like, well, I don't want to not have a job. I don't want to, like, I'm worried I won't be able to provide for my family.
Yeah.
I like don't want to lose my salary. I am afraid that if I go out on my own, like I won't have any clients. And it's like all of that fear and that scarcity is what we don't want, as opposed to being productive about what we don't want, right? Like I don't want burnout. I don't want a job that's going to take me away from my family 90% of the time. And actually using the I don't want as something that can help propel you towards things that you want, but all of we focus on the scarcity of fear of what we don't
Mhm.
want and have that like pull us down and keep us into not being able to dream because we're too scared.
Yeah, it almost becomes like a then you spiral into what you
Mm.
don't want. You just spiral and your brain goes in this loop. And then what happens? The actions that you take are out of fear.
Yeah.
They come from limited thinking, scarcity, and they're not powerful, aligned actions with what it is you actually want. So sometimes that looks like avoidance, procrastination, stewing, doing like a million things that are actually $10,000 action items, but $10 a night action items, like,
Mm.
you
Mhm.
know, whatever it is. So, yeah, and that's not actually what's going to move the needle.
Yeah.
It is,
I heard today in a podcast I was listening to just a simple statement of you have to be able to allow yourself to dream without needing an outcome attached to it. So
Mhm.
just continue like to dream. And when you're anchored in those fears of what ifs, you can't dream. You can't be creative. And dreaming brings so much fun and so much joy to your life. Like when you get to just sit and think about what could be and then not have to have an outcome or a how or a path onto like making any of that, like you can just dream.
Mm,
It's such a lost skill that we just don't allow ourselves to practice nearly enough.
mm,
But the best ideas and the best feelings and the best moments, like those lightning bolt moments, those come out during those times. And it helps release all of that what if, because all of a
yeah.
sudden you're just in like a bit of a different realm and a bit of a different world. And I think, uh, to as that sounds a little bit woo woo, but to ground that a bit, like again, I think I'm an endlessly curious person and I love to dream about the impossible and what could be and how it could be. And I think that, 7 years ago when I was, sitting in a leadership role in this gold mining company, trying to put together its first sustainability report, or strategy with you, feeling so inadequate, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm way in over my head, to now I'm forming my own mining company.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing it because, as I said to you before recording, I was thinking about like, where does the why come from for this company and why is it so important to me? And
Yeah.
my why, when you strip everything away, is because I'm sick and tired of hearing all of the negative stories that women have in their companies. And
Yeah.
it's like, I would never be at the point I am now if I didn't allow myself to dream, didn't allow myself to feel like the impossible is always possible. It just hasn't been done yet. And to really drive and focus in on the things that matter, that are purpose driven, that are my confidence, that are who I am as a person. And I just want more women to know that they have the ability to do that too. They have the
Mm.
ability to dream. They have the ability to create. We have everything. Like you say this all the time, the answer's already within you. We already have it. It's already in us. We're fantastic, amazing individuals. And it's just so important that you let that
Mm.
out and that you build your life and your career based on that, not based on what's expected of you to do.
So true. I think that we've said it all. It's a perfect place to wrap it
I'll
up.
wrap it up.
That's
Wrap
why
it up.
it's so amazing to see you succeed because you are tapping into that creativity, and like successful people, they allow themselves to be creative, and
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
key.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, thanks for indulging me and having this conversation and just like going with it.
It was so
And I look
good.
forward to chatting with you after Thanksgiving, after the long weekend,
Yes.
and picking up again next week.
Okay. Talk to you
Awesome.
then.
Thanks, Carmen. Bye.
Bye. If this podcast resonates with you, it would mean so much to us if you could take 30 seconds to follow or subscribe to The Rebuild. This will make sure that you never miss an episode. Just go to the Rebuild Show page on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and just tap the plus sign on the right-hand corner or click follow. This is super important to our podcast. While you're there, if you'd be willing to leave us a 5-star review and share an episode you love with a friend, we would be incredibly grateful. We love you and appreciate you very much.